tonight I thought I would take a step backwards and tell you about number two, the second person that I ever had sex with. I skipped it before because it was a, one-off, and I still don't really think it has had much of an impact on my life at all, but it does lead me to a couple of important traits of mine. So anyway, this was the summer after high school, and there was this guy that I went to high school with. I believe he was a year older than me. Don't remember how I met him. I don't think we had classes together, but we had been friends in high school. Just didn't spend a lot of time together because our paths didn't cross that much. But I didn't have a whole lot of, close friends in high school, so I don't remember how we met up after I graduated. I don't know I don't remember if we actually had phone numbers and contacted each other at all, or if I just happened to run into him. We must have made plans though, because I think, because I can't see myself going to the carnival by myself at that point. I think I would have been too shy. And that's where we hung out that night. He and I and a friend of his, don't remember who it was. I don't think it was anybody that was actually my friend, maybe just an acquaintance. And we were drinking. He had a bottle of something and offered it to me, and so I took, sips regularly and got inebriated. This was either the first or second time I had ever had alcohol or liquor, or anything intoxicating like that. But both of those first two times occurred the summer between high school and college. So anyway, and my family was on vacation. So yeah, I think this was the first time that I'd had anything alcoholic. So he actually followed me home after we left, and we were hanging out, and I didn't know what to do or anything, because I'd never been on a date with anyone that I didn't go to church with, so. And at some point, I don't know if we had been kissing, making out, but I remember him saying, so do you like sex? Or you like sex, don't you? Something to that effect. And I said yes, and we had sex in my living room, on the couch, I guess. And looking back at it, I guess that was the first time that I had sex that I really wasn't, like, really wanting to have, because, you know, with my first, that boyfriend, I mean, we had been heading towards that for months, you know, and we were both just, like, super, I mean, our hormones were raging, but I hadn't been with this guy before. His name was David. I hadn't been with him before. I hadn't even dated him before. There was none of that going on. This was a first date, and I just don't know that I'd ever had any indication from him that he was even interested in me in that way. So it was unexpected, and I simply didn't know how to react. And so I ended up reacting the way that I thought he would want me to react, which was to say yes and have sex with him. And well, I mean, to me that says that I desperately wanted to be accepted and liked, which makes me feel pretty pathetic. But yeah, that element has been there, along with some very contradictory elements, you know, for, I guess, all of my adult life, to some degree. Waxes and wanes, other attitudes and traits take over from time to time, but I would tell you that I've been in this situation over the past 20 years numerous times. And I would say not all, but the majority of those times I've given in and made the same decision if it was someone who I either really liked as a person, wanted to keep around. Mainly that, I guess, unless it was someone that I was, you know, attracted to, that I thought I might like to have something with, but wasn't completely, you know, sure about it yet. It's hard to describe exactly what has gone on in my head about that over the years. But I've always felt a bit ashamed, a bit pathetic when I have given in. Sometimes more than a bit, sometimes regretful. And at the same time, I look back and I see that it was pathetic and regretful, but I don't beat myself up about it because I'm kind of pragmatic. I know that I'm not the only person by far who has had motivations that way, who's felt that way. Surely not, probably one of many females who have been in similar situations, at least once or twice, and maybe most of them were stronger than me and said no and went on. But, as strong as I am in some ways, that's an area in which I have many times been weak in the area of wanting to be liked and accepted and to be able to keep a guy around. And Well, um, and of course, the cause is pretty easy to see. The trigger, it's because of just the vast amount of rejection that just had built up over the past several years, all of my adolescence into young adulthood, and I guess on until today, even though, maybe I haven't given in very much for a long time, but anyway, but I was so young and just clueless about most things, I mean, I feel like I have been behind the curve ever since I was a teenager. I feel like one of the reasons that I'm where I'm in the situation that I'm at today, just one reason, but significant enough to talk about, is that I've had to do so many things later than everyone else, most of my peers, the majority of my peers, let's say that, did some dating in high school, maybe even, had, or lost their virginity, some had serious boyfriends, even a handful, got married like right after graduation or soon thereafter, or, because they had already, dated someone for quite some time. And, I did have, my church boyfriend, but yeah, that was my only experience, and that was really hard on me. And sometime around 18 or 19, I quit going to church, and so I was, of course, when I met David, I was still going to church, but I think I was starting to drop off because, I knew I was about to be out on my own as soon as I moved up to campus, in a few months. But anyway, as I was saying about doing things late, so when I got out, when I finally left church and was in college, I finally started doing the things that everybody else had done and that I had always wanted to do. And, I went out and I sowed my wild oats, and I sowed them for a long time. And so I was still doing that while, in like mid to late 20s, when the majority of my peers here in this area were either already married or were, engaged, about to get married, or were like at least seriously thinking about settling down. And I was still out there exploring what I could do and who I could be and all of this, and so then I end up here several years behind most of my peers as far as even having a child. And by the time I was ready to settle down and hopefully meet someone and get married, everybody my age was already settled down and married, so didn't have much to choose from, especially being the anomaly that I am in this relatively small town in this relatively rural part of the world. And so, anyway, ending to this story is that I ran into David again 7 or 8 years later because I met his nephew and started dating him, and apparently, I don't remember if he lived with this guy lived with his uncle David, or if they just hung out a lot. But coming to find out, David was gay and out, and yeah, does that ring a bell? And you know, I remember thinking in high school that I think, you know, the general consensus was that everyone thought he was gay. I don't think he was actually out, or if he was, I didn't know about it, but there was something about his mannerisms, the way that he talked and everything, that I remember thinking that. So that was probably another reason why I was a little taken aback, caught off guard when he asked me if I liked sex. So there you go, another strange story from Eleanor Rigby.